What's up, dudes?
What's up?
So we got Ronny Aaron in here finally. Veteran of like 50 different podcasts, right? Can you shut him up?
No,
Can
man.
you even make him?
I can't get a word in edgewise with this guy.
I know it.
I'm going to have my agent talk to you about
That's
this.
how it's been. So I'm using my retirement gift, from Mike Montalvo, the world's fourth best podcaster glass, since I busted my other one. So I had chemo this morning. This is my first day of retirement.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not the full chemo. It's just a drug I have to take when I'm on the break. But Tammy Lawrence we've been friends a long time, and she's one of the pharmacy people. And we were just talking, and I said she's asking about my retirement, and I said yeah, we're gonna. And she's a fan of the podcast, and she said, "Are you guys gonna talk about it?" I go, "Oh yeah, we're gonna. Some friends coming over, and we're gonna record tonight." She said, "Cool. When does it come on? Because I want to watch it." And I said, "This is not a live crowd. We're not. We're gonna record this one and come back to it." Because
wait a minute, this isn't live.
No.
Why am I just now finding out about this?
I told her, I said it's entirely possible one or more of us will say something really stupid, and these two guys still have jobs to keep. And I'm finally in a position where I can say damn near anything I want. But yeah, so just in case, not that it's ever happened here. But it's happened here before that we've had to sort of back up. So,
yeah. So there will be, now that you're retired, there will be many, many times that there will be awkward silence right after you say something.
Yeah, there will be quite a bit of that.
It's already started.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And Ronny has the same problem of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, timing issues. So. Everybody knows Clif. He's been on the podcast before, and not everybody knows Ronny Aaron. And the reason these two guys are here is I just retired, and these are two of my oldest friends. Ronny and I have known each other since 1982, 81, 82, somewhere in there, and Clif and I have been hanging out since probably 85, 86, somewhere in there.
Yeah, probably.
And so Clif is in law enforcement, and Ronny is in law enforcement. Ronny and I work together our entire careers, pretty much, and Clif at the PD, and before that, the city water, wastewater, right?
Yes.
How long have you been at the PD now?
Very glamorous.
Yeah.
About 15 years.
And the main reason I got these guys here is Ronny's dad was deputy chief. How long was he at the PD?
Oh, wow. 29 years.
Yeah, so he's 29 years there. And then Clif, your dad was at the SO. He was a dispatcher at the SO, right?
Yeah.
And then what all did you do at the PD? I forgot. He had more than one job there, right?
No, he was just a patrolman.
Just patrolman, okay.
No, he started out as a dispatcher for the DPS in like I don't know, 62, 61, 62.
Okay, yeah.
And then he went to work for the PD in 64 until 71, where he left and had his own business for a little while. And then a few years after that, went to work for the sheriff's office. And he worked there for about 7 years. I don't remember the exact years. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So about 17 years altogether.
Right.
In different agencies.
I remember like spending the night at your house, and your dad took us somewhere, and we had to stop by the office. And I think he was a lieutenant in detectives. I don't remember what.
Yeah.
If they were just detectives back then, if they were all split up. But I was at the old building, was it Texas Street? Or
Yeah.
I think they had one juvenile lieutenant, and the rest of them were detectives. I think they literally only had one person working juvenile.
That's nuts.
So
They only got one person today. Working juveniles.
Really?
Yeah.
It still shocks me. Shocked me back then.
Yeah. So I want to put up a picture. It's interesting on a lot. I could not find the picture of both of us.
Okay.
So I don't have the old picture, but I had this picture of these two raggedy kids playing in an alley, and you know, we're like 11 years old in my dad's old army clothes, my stepdad's stuff. But we took a picture of the two of us with my car. Now, the funny thing about this, and Ronny and I were talking about this yesterday, is that I picked up a curse in that I've only had one new vehicle my entire career. And this isn't malice. This isn't politics. There's nothing. It's just a curse that I picked up. My boss, ever since I've been at the DA's office, has been trying to give me a new car. And I said, they won't. And oh, yeah, you're going to go. Nope, something will happen. And it doesn't make the budget. This happens, that happens. You get a bunch of new people. Somebody wrecks this car. That one catches on fire. We got to replace that one, whatever. So yesterday, not only did I retire, but it's not retired yet. You're driving it now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Our last Crown Victoria. In that we can tell, the last one in Midland County's fleet.
In Midland County.
Yeah, not just the DA, but everyone's. His vehicle was in the shop, so they just said, you'll get Ronny to drive it. So, yeah, I rolled out of there in the last Crown. It's one of the police package ones, too. It's pretty groovy. So, yeah. And I had, it was that way at the sheriff's office. I rode the division hoopty as long as I could. Yeah. It's like, so as soon as I left there, I think they just burned that car.
Yeah.
So she is in her last days as a law enforcement car. Will go on life as a taxi or a ghetto gunship or something like that. You'll see it rolling down the road with 24-inch wheels on it.
Yeah.
So I started in 1991 at the sheriff's office. May of 1991 as a booking clerk. And you started
in November of 92.
Okay. So it was about a year and a half. Okay. And we were clerks at the same time.
No, you had already promoted.
Oh, okay.
You were walking down the hall with Mike Reed.
Yeah.
And we had lost track of each other right after high school.
Well, yeah. After graduation, we kind of scattered, and both of us were going to go to the military right after, and that didn't work out for either of us.
And that's exactly what we said. I go walking in, and you were walking down the hall, and I said, I thought you were in the Air Force. And he goes, I thought you were in the Navy. And we didn't have Facebook to keep track of one another. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
So Ronny, let me tell you a story about that. Of course, I knew Matt, and he had this string of jobs like at the mall. He worked at Jeans West.
Yeah, just like Hank Hill, man. Worked at Jeans West.
Yeah, worked at Jeans West and
software, etc.
Did some
remember that place?
Crazy jobs at the mall.
Yeah,
and that minimum wage stuff, right? And he gets on at the sheriff's office. He's a booking clerk, and it was really the first real job he'd ever had. That wasn't like a part-time mall gig, right? And so there was a party over at my house. There were some guys over there from Civil Air Patrol, and so Matt had a couple of beers, so he was in a good mood.
I know where this is going.
And he made this comment. I asked him, "How's the job going?" And he goes, "Man, it's the greatest job in the world. I get $2,000 a month to beat people up."
God, remember what it was like in the jail, though? Oh, my God.
It was the Wild West.
That's all we did back then was fight. Everybody that came in was hammered. I don't know what it's like now. But.
Midland County was so overcrowded, they'd start fighting just as soon as they got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, we had in the 90s, early 90s, TDC, the state prison system was backed up, so they weren't taking prisoners. And we had I remember cell blocks designed for 48 people, split 24 and 24. And I remember feeding over 100 people in there when we were jailers.
Well, that tank Tank 7 was only designed to hold 13, and there was 37 in there.
Yeah, I remember
we
that.
had them stacked up.
Yeah. And did you and I ever work on the same shift at Central? I don't think we did until we went to the downtown jail. The old courthouse that suddenly is like a religious temple to everybody in Midland after they decided to tear it down. Trust me, Midland people, it was time for that place to go. There was no saving it. The 70s renovation completely destroyed that place. But I got away with this guy. You remember that?
Yes.
That is the jail's bat phone, they called it. That was the downstairs one. When you did visitation and you were working in the control cage on the 5th floor, you would pick up your bat phone and it would ring this one. And I have not yet taken that phone apart to figure out how old it is. but it's definitely ancient.
Yes.
And that jail was 74, I think that jail was open. And then it shut down, I don't know, whatever year they started evacuating.
Isn't this the Tank 5 key?
I can't remember. If anybody who worked at the downtown jail, what's the number on it?
551R.
551R. I think that's tank 5 or the backside of tank 36 because they were different, I think.
They were.
Yeah. So we managed.
I never thought I'd forget the numbers of the keys.
Well, the only reason you and I sat around and a couple other guys, and we remembered the ones we used all the time. That one didn't get used a lot, so I'm thinking it was the backside into one of the tanks.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was on the backside. It was either 5 or the back.
550 was 3 and 6, or I mean tank 5 and tank whatever's on the opposite side.
But was it the front doors or the back doors?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
that could be. Anyway, that's
one of the wildest stories about the old downtown jail. My dad, I don't know if we can use names. My dad ended up working a homicide with 2 other detectives back in the 80s. We were still.
I don't care. You can talk shit about anybody here. I'm retired, dude. I don't.
Well,
you know what? You can reach over and just backhand the shit out of him, and I don't care because I'm not retired. I'm not retired.
You could just use first names.
Yeah, you could do that, or numbers, or yeah. But anyway.
Well, I was little, so I could hide in the corner while they ended up talking. I'd hear things come and go about this homicide. Anyway, the guy ended up getting convicted, and while he was being held at the downtown jail, he was in single cell 9. Okay, do you remember the plate that was welded on the outside of the wall on single cell 9 at the walk-around? There was a large plate.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason that was there, and I don't even know if I ever discussed this with you.
No, I've never heard this.
The guy that was accused of killing her scratched a confession in on the wall. So they called my dad and I think Larry Bledsoe and B.G. Johnson up there, and they said, "What do y'all want to do? Do you want to take pictures or whatever?" And they said, "No, we want the wall." So they cut the wall out while he was at rec. And they took another plate and stuck it up there and welded it into place.
Wow.
He'll never notice this. The guy's like coming back. Something looks different in here.
It was too late. They actually put it up in the courtroom during his trial.
I'll bet they did.
Oh, wow.
So when we were allowed to go into the jail and get certain items, that's the portal that I've got.
Oh, yeah.
Out of that cell because of the missing piece. And I've looked around in Midland and where we store things, and I can't find that wall. But it's still somewhere around here.
Well, I can tell you it's in my shop, but I have the old visitation rules board. And I was going to bring it in, but I've got it kind of secured up there. I didn't want to jack with it. I found it in a closet, and I thought we're never going to use this again, so I just deefed it. And when we started hearing rumors that they were just going to, when they gave the word to tear that jail down, that we were going to be allowed to go in there and pillage it, I told somebody, I said, "I'll give you $100 for that phone. I want the bat phone." Yeah, because I know it's still there, and I don't remember how I knew that. And within 24 hours, the bat phone showed up before it was open to the general public, and then they had to wait until the jail didn't exist anymore before they could get rid of the keys, because that was tightly controlled for a long time. In fact, they're auditing and stuff, and they recently checked to make sure they're all where they're supposed to be. A lot of history in that jail, but man, it was time for that building to come down. Anytime the prisoners get pissed off, they would flood the toilets and rain turd water on the newly renovated
courtrooms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was epic.
That was common.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. But it was an old linear style jail, and it was.
I loved it. I mean,
it was
would rather work down there than Central.
Yeah, it was a lot less. Well, and also when we worked there, when they arrested people off the streets, they didn't go through the downtown jail. They went to Central, so that's why you're fighting every day there with somebody. Downtown's pretty much laid back. 3 people on a shift. We'd cook. We had our own kitchen and everything. It was pretty groovy, but a lot of good stories in the jail. And then when did you go to patrol?
98.
I
I want to say 98, January of 98.
because I went in 2000. I had just promoted, so I missed a shot at the street. And I go to the streets in 2000, and then I was on evening shift my entire patrol career. I never left it. I was on patrol for 5 years, I guess, and then I went to CID. And when did you go to CID?
2008.
Was it? Okay.
Well, you stayed on evenings the entire time. Me and you switched one time because of your sleep schedule. Do you remember? And you went to midnights and I went to evenings.
I went to midnights when they canned. There was some kind of big disciplinary thing, and a sergeant or somebody got canned, and then I went.
But you went, and we switched.
Okay.
And you looked at me and said, "I don't like this at all," so we switched and went back.
Yeah. Well, they told me that they wanted me there for 6 months while they did something. I can't remember.
I think that's as long as we stayed there.
That's really, they hit all the scary people, man. That was, we had some jailers that were in advanced years and ready to go, and yeah, that was an interesting shift to be on. And then you were on what, midnights and days in patrol?
I have adult ADD. I was bad.
Yeah.
In the jail, I worked every shift at both facilities, and in patrol, I worked every shift and one that doesn't exist.
Okay. I worked all the shifts at both facilities, and then I worked only evenings on patrol, and then the CID, and I went to youth services, juvenile, that wound up being persons crimes with all the sex crimes and everything.
Right.
And so that was,
They called it youth services, but it was
that was
far more reaching.
Yeah, I would get into all that. That was a hill I charged quite a bit. So, but I loved being an investigator over there. And then I went to the DA's office 2013, and then you were there
2013.
Yeah.
You went in January when we got sworn in down in the courtroom.
Yep.
You were swearing in at the DA's office. I was swearing in at the SO.
Yep.
And then October, that opening came open. I went over there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So, yeah, we finished my career began and finished it with Ronny. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, DA's office was cool, and I was ready to go. I mean, I was a sergeant, and I did SWAT for 15 years, and I was commander the last 5, and then sergeant in CID, and I realized the promotion structure there was almost exclusively longevity based. You had to wait for somebody to die, and then whoever's next in line, there wasn't a merit or test or any way to jump anybody. I'm like, nah, I got to go. So I did, and good call, because it would have worked out that way. I would still be a sergeant, just the way things have moved around. So, but no, that was cool. The DA's office is totally different. That was like going to work for a law firm. It's not the same kind of law enforcement for the most part, but
it's not the same law enforcement. But I really wish I wish while I was in patrol, I could have spent some time over there, because I'd have done things a lot different. Yeah, and I'd have done it different in CID too. After seeing what I've seen. Here's
the thing. Here's how law enforcement works, man. is if you get all cops, there's this solidarity. Everybody understands. Everybody gets it, man. Worldwide, we fist bump each other and do the heads up when you see another cop pass by. It's cool, right? But then you get down to that agency, and we're cool. The hell with those guys. SO. Those guys are assholes, but we're cool, right? And you get down to your division, and we're like, dude, our division, we're the cool ones. Everybody else screws us. We get all their work, bunch of pricks. And you get down to your shift. And your shifts, we're the only ones at work, man. Those other shifts are a bunch of dorks. They don't do shit, man. They never do. And then you get down to, it just keeps on going and keeps on going. And then I was at a school one time. I don't even remember what it was for. Big school, cops from all over the state. And some guy started telling war stories. And the instructor goes, hang on, no offense, guys. He goes, we're not going to play more effed up than you. That's a game cops love to play. Right? More effed up than you, because that's how it'll start, right? You'll go, yeah, man, I drove the oldest car, forever. I have this curse, and somebody, oh, yeah, we don't even get cars, man. We have to ride horses. Oh, yeah, we don't even get horses. They give us a skateboard, and you just keep going to.
We walk uphill both ways.
Yeah.
Didn't you tell me about having a big throwdown one night out by Eagle's Nest with the guy from Ector County SO? Y'all sat there on the side of the road and played more effed up than you, you for like an hour.
Yeah. There was I'll tell you the story about how that happened. I was out somewhere by Dora Roberts Road, or the kids used to go out there and drag race.
Yeah.
And it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally, and they were at the county line. And the reason they went out there was pretty smart, because I used to work at Eagle's Nest out there. Is it's not a place that any cop is going to just patrol by. Like, I can't remember ever going out there unless I was on a call. And so they said, hey, you guys need to go check this place every once in a while. That's how I ran into that deputy. But they were telling us Friday, Saturday nights, you guys go out and make a pass through there, kind of make yourselves known. So I got there, and I rolled through, and there were people piling up, man, piling up. And there was nobody racing. Nobody was doing anything illegal. Like, I cruised through real slow, and just all these kids stared at me, good moral officer, and nobody was doing anything illegal, and
handing out free Bibles.
Yeah. And so I waved at him, and I talked to a couple of them. Hey, oh yeah, it's a church meeting or whatever. So I guess the one guy that had booze or weed or was just really paranoid, whatever, he turned around and headed toward Midland. Now, I'm pretty sure all those kids were from Odessa, because it was, geographically closest to Odessa. So I turned around to go back to Midland, right? Because I was almost in, and probably was in, Ector County. And this dude's in front of me, and I could tell he has no idea where he's going. And he goes off, and he starts heading further and further away from civilization. And I'm like, this dude is lost. But I had no probable cause to pull him over, anything like that, because I knew if I shut this guy down, he was going to have weed or something. And then why'd you stop him? I thought he was lost. Nothing's going anywhere. And I followed that guy damn near to the southern county line. And I got a call, which just distracted my attention. If I would have been able to stay on him, So I just wonder to this day if there's like a skeleton sitting in that car on a Cleachy road.
I think we would have found him by now.
Road.
Yeah. Well, the drag racing in Midland moved to Salt Flat Road, 1160. And we didn't know it. It jumped around in Midland quite a bit. It was fairgrounds and out by the tank farm. Well, we got a very scary call one night. I can't remember. It was a shooting or scalping or something crazy. And I remember getting on 1160. Is that Salt Flat? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And going south fast. Oh, no, it was a car on fire, like a wreck, and somebody pinned or whatever. And we would be miles ahead of EMS. So, man, I am just flying down the road. There were kids lining up to drag race, all of them with their lights out, and I came blaring through there, 120 miles an hour, lights and siren, and I mean, it is by the grace of God there wasn't anybody standing in the road, because this is in the middle of nowhere. And I tore through there, and I cannot imagine what they were thinking. Here they are, both sides of the road, all these kids, and I just lasered through. Anyway, we got down there. Turned out to be in... I guess it would have been in Upton County, right? Rankin, Upton, if we went south. Anyway, it was in
it's Upton County.
Yeah, it was in Upton. And it wasn't a car, it was a truck, and it was not a big deal. The guy was okay. He wasn't pinned, or whatever it was. So I came back, and there was nobody out there.
Well, it's about time for me to go home.
Yeah. That could have been really bad, but it's one of those things that, because nobody got hurt, it was really funny. But I don't even know where they drag race now, or if they even do, other than the road right by my house.
Probably on video games.
Yeah. No,
I think they're up on Mockingbird. I think the people that live up there keep calling all the time.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Between Midland Drive and Midgift. So.
Okay. That seems like as good a place as any.
Yeah, sure. Because people with $10 million houses never call the police and complain,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true, man. I think you said it once when you worked for water and wastewater that they could go out and dig up a meter in the neighbor's yard in Green Tree, and 3 people would call in and complain about it, but they can rip up an entire main line over in the cuts and leave it open for a month and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody even complains.
Yeah, that's what one of the foremen said. I think somebody had made the claim that we were spending all of our money on, the rich part of town while we were neglecting the poor part of town,
Yeah.
one of our construction guys, he said, man, I wish we were working in the poor part of town. He said, hell, he goes, I can block a guy's driveway for 3 weeks. He won't even say anything. Down there, he goes, man, I can't even like hit a tree branch with a backhoe on the rich side of town without some lady running out of her house complaining, you know. Yep. So he said,
you got to buy my tree.
I'd rather work down in the flats all the time. He said, people down there actually appreciate you trying to, you know, make their neighborhood better.
Yeah. It blows my mind. We cops were the worst to complain about, like local politicians, you know, commissioners and county judges and city councilmen and mayors and all that. But I listened to, and I don't know why you would want that job. So I know a couple of people running. I was listening to Craig Anderson's show. I don't even remember who was on there. It was either the mayor or the county judge or whatever. But let's just say, for instance, it was the county judge. And some guy calls in bitching the county judge out for screwing up trash pickup or something like along those lines. And they're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You know, so. But it's always good to be part of a conspiracy theory,
well,
too.
Well, that happens, too.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite traffic stories when you brought up the kids, Richard used to send me to trouble spots, and he'd say, work this area and get them to slow down.
Are we talking about Sheriff Richard?
Yes.
Richard Gillette. Yeah.
So I get out there on Todd Road, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I set up, and the first car I hit, it's 30-mile-an-hour zone. First one's 86. Bam. Get him pulled over, and he gets out of the car and looks like my grandfather. So he gets out, and he comes walking up, and I introduce myself, and I said, the reason why I pulled you over, and he goes, son, I know why you pulled me over. He said, I've been flying down this road for years. I've never seen y'all out here this time of day. And I got tickled, and I said, okay. I said, do you know how fast you were going? He goes, 85, 90. And I go, okay, do you know how fast? And he goes, yeah, it's 30 miles an hour. I live just right down there. And I'm like, okay. So I'm out there to do a job. I ride him up. Next car, same thing, 86 and a 30. So I'm literally getting my car turned around. I light one up. I shut my lights off. I hit another one. And I'm doing this for an hour. Wow. The neighbors come out. They all walk out to my car, shake my hand. Thank you for being out here. This is wonderful. And I see them dragging up a table, putting a coffee pot on it, an electric
awesome.
Skillet, and they're watching me work traffic in their front yard. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Wow.
I worked traffic. I got off at 7. I think I left there around 9:30 that morning. So...
My wife flies down there, and I'm riding with her. I'm like,
yeah,
you need to slow down, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. You said that was on
Todd.
Yeah.
Down there by 80.
People could fly on that road. I think the highest ticket I ever wrote was 121 miles an hour, and it was on East 80, and the guy owned a. He was a mechanic, specialized in a European car, one of which he was driving that was kind of tricked out, and he was apparently going through a brief period of craziness for some reason, and I popped him, and he tried to hide from me. And he wasn't drunk. I was amazed, but yeah. And that same area, I got a guy one time, and he was bad drunk, but he was driving like 80 miles an hour on the service road in a little pickup with 3 kids in the truck, and I was the only unit anywhere close. So I was running radar, and this number kept coming up, 80 whatever, and I'm like, there's nothing down here, and I see him just, you know, when they're going fast enough, and you see the dirt trail, you know, and he was just ripping up by the golf course out there, Green Acres, and all, just screaming. He blew a stop sign, and I was not going to go in the ditch because that one was really bad about debris and getting flat tires, and that'd be the next thing is going 130 miles an hour to chase him and losing the tires. So I made a turn and went down to the next crossover to catch him. And there's a guy on foot jumped in front of my car and started waving his arms. So I locked that thing up. This is that 03 Interceptor that was just a monster. And that was the first time I had ever just stabbed the brakes going that fast, and you can feel all 4 ABSs chattering. And all I'm doing is holding the wheel, headed straight for this guy, and imagining how I'm going to write this report. And it's like a movie. Just he didn't know how fast I was going. I guess he couldn't tell. And I thought the only reason he would do that, maybe he was in a wreck, or this guy just hit his kid. He goes, "Hey, you need to catch that guy. He was driving really fast." And I'm like, "That's what I'm trying to do, bro. Get out of my way." So I'm looking up, and I can see that guy's just a dot, but he stayed on the service road, and I caught him and popped him. I got him for we were having a hard time with it back then, DWI and endangering. Now, you have the the different laws. But, that was – if people want to know when I get asked stories or asked for stories, or people ask me questions, people aren't around cops a lot. And they're like, why are you guys all assholes? And when they'll say things like, all cops are assholes. Well, except you. Yeah. We're cool. And my cousin. Yeah, and he's a cop, and he's cool. How many cops do you know? Well, you and my cousin. But this is a story. I tell people, the rest
of those guys are assholes.
When you want to know why we have the view of humanity that we have, I tell this story. Here it goes. This is 100% true, and I've told it at the academy. I tell it when I teach the academy classes. So I've told it enough; it's stuck in my head. I was evening shift patrol in the car by myself, and we get a call of a house fire in a nice neighborhood. It was over there just east of Rankin Highway, back where Tom Arnold used to live.
Yeah.
Tom, nice neighborhood. It's like where you live. The houses are spaced like that.
Oh, yeah. What is that? I can't remember the name of that subdivision.
I can't either. So we're looking at 3-5 acre lots.
Yeah.
People with horses and 2,000-3,000 square foot homes. And it's big and
nice shops.
Yeah, with nice shops and everything. Well, this road. So you picture a road, mile long of these homes that dead ends, and nobody has a number on their house.
Right.
And the mailboxes are in clusters, right? So you go 5 or 6 houses, and boom, there's 5 or 6 mailboxes piled up, and there's no smoke billowing, nobody jumping out of windows, nobody flagging anybody down, nothing. And the fire truck had beat me there, so he's in front of me. Normally, the reason we go to these is traffic control. That was the first thing, and to help them find the place because it's always crazy. And so I'm driving down the road. And it's nice weather, and people are coming out and looking around. Lots of people. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, where am I going? They're like, I have no idea why you're here. And there was a woman standing with her arms crossed in her driveway. And the fire truck had passed her, and he had gone all the way to the end of the road because he didn't know, I guess it was a dead end. So he had to stop, and he's turned this big pumper around. And so I'm still trying to find a house number. And I get to a mailbox cluster, and I realized I passed it. And so I started backing up. And the lady that was standing out there, I backed up to her, and I said, "Ma'am, we're looking for 1234 South County Road, whatever." And she said, "Well, that's my house." And I thought, why, there must be some mistake, because if you had called to report a fire, and I said, "Okay, did you call 911? Yeah, my kitchen's on fire." "Okay, thank you." And I called so I called the unit, and I said, "Hey guys, get over here." So they come around, and they're like, "That lady didn't wave us down or anything." I'm like, "Me either. I don't know."
It was a test, man.
Right. So she's trying to go back in the house. I said, "Hang on. We've already learned that. We'd already had a sergeant and a corporal with lung damage from running in houses, so they were really crazy about not getting any of us hurt. So is there anybody else in the home? Yeah, my mom's in there. Mama was in there watching the stove burn, and she wouldn't leave. She just wanted to watch it, I guess. So the house wasn't engulfed yet, and it wasn't really smoking. They're like, "Hey, can you come in, help get this lady out here?" Finally had to tell her, "Ma'am, you get out or you're going to be gotten out. Please, let's go." So she got up, and she waddled her happy ass back outside. So she's now with whoever this other lady was. And they were worried about the fire being in the ceiling. like something with the smoke hood, and they just had that groovy
Heat.
new heat Camry. I think they had just got them, or I don't know. So they were doing that, but they were running hoses. They always do that. So the pumper was in the front yard, and I walk outside just after getting Mama out. A Suburban comes barreling down the road, and a fireman is pulling a hose, and she stops in front of the fireman, like he backs up, pulling the hose in the house. And she said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle." "But I know these people." "Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle. They're trying to run a fire hose." "But I can help." And I said, "You can help by moving your vehicle." "Well, these are my friends. We go to church with them or whatever." And I said, "Ma'am, this firefighter is trying to move a hose to put out the fire in their house. You need to move." And she said, "Well, I could take the kids or anything." And this exchange until I said, "Ma'am, I'm about to put you in jail and move your car myself." And she says, "Well, you don't have to be a jerk about it."
Dude, you're just an asshole.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting here going, this is why cops turn out the way they turn out a lot of times.
When we had the bomb threat up at the courthouse, the
Oh,
lady
yeah.
drives through 2 marked units to pull down to where I'm at. And I looked at her and I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Well, I need to be right there." And I said, "You just drove by 2 officers. Everybody's out of the building. There's like 50 cops out here, and you need to be right here, so you thought it was okay to drive through the roadblock." "Well, I just need to be right here." And I said, "You need to turn your car around." She goes, "Well, you ain't got to be an asshole about it."
Apparently that's necessary at this point in our story.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Well, I have said, even before I went to work for the PD, I worked for the city for 15 years before I transferred to the PD. And I used to say back 20 years ago, the only way to get something done at the city of Midland is to piss somebody off.
Yeah, and that's true. That's you got to be the squeakiest wheel on the entire shopping cart before anybody will give a shit about you. That's true. Yeah. But I will tell you, when I trained new patrolmen and even not so much detectives, but patrolmen, that moment you see them start to get salty, right? Like you can tell they're turning that way. And I would tell them at 3 o'clock in the morning when we're going to break up a couple of dumbasses that are drunk on a Wednesday night and fighting, to look at all the houses on the way. You're going to pass hundreds of houses with neatly kept lawns and registered vehicles, and the lights are out, the kids are in bed, they're going to work in the morning and church on Sunday. And they're doing, they're those are the people you're working for by dealing with the guy you're going to. And it's just, you have to remember not to put on the blinders and see all the good that's within all the bad.
Don't forget the good.
Yeah, you can't.
When you were talking about locator information, I'd just gotten out on my own, and God bless dispatchers.
Oh, man.
Because they get the call. They try to give you the location. The county's really bad about not marking anything. And in the window pane on South Big Spring, they didn't even mark the streets because the signs wouldn't stay there. Mm-hmm. You'd put up a new stop sign was gone. So I get out there, and I don't know who's who in this neighborhood yet, and they tell me that there's a disturbance and that the house should look like this. And I turn down the street, and I'm looking around, and of course they've got the sheet metal around their entire house, so all I see is sheet metal.
Oh, yeah.
They've described their home, but all I can see is this row of sheet metal. So about that time, I get back online or back on the radio, and I said, "Midland, you got to give me a better description of this residence." And about that time, they were like 10-4, and you can tell they're frustrated. I'm frustrated because somebody needs help. So I'm sitting there waiting. I make the corner, and I'm over there by Rory's house.
Okay, yeah.
And about that time, I look up, and this mattress comes flying over this sheet metal fence.
This might be the place. Yeah.
I could be an investigator.
Yeah. This guy's detective material.
This queen-size mattress clears the street, clears my patrol car, and lands on the other side of the street. And I look back at the fence, and about that time, this chihuahua clears the fence. Bam! Lands right on the mattress and takes off running. I'm like, "Midland, you can 10-22. Yeah. I think I'm 23.
I just found the world's luckiest chihuahua, man.
We call this a clue.
Oh, wow.
Tell CID I'm coming.
I'll tell you my favorite patrol and dog story was out that neighborhood behind Pee Wee Dalton's. And I don't remember why I was there, but there were some people with a fenced-in yard. And again, we were just passing the time. I wasn't taking a report or anything. And they had a beautiful miniature schnauzer. I love schnauzers. And they had a bull mastiff. And a friend of mine had a bull mastiff, and I love bull mastiffs. And these two dogs were playing together. So this giant bull mastiff and this little bitty schnauzer, and he was like a puppy, you know, just not quite full grown. And they were roughing and tumbling and jumping around, and they had a soccer ball that was deflated, and the mastiff would grab the soccer ball and run from the schnauzer. And the schnauzer would grab the soccer ball and hang from it, and the mastiff would shake him around, and eventually the schnauzer would get the ball and run with it, and the mastiff would pick the whole mess up and carry it around. Well, the mastiff just kind of ran over the schnauzer, and so the schnauzer's under the mastiff, and he looks up and jumps and grabs that mastiff by the balls and hangs. So that schnauzer's got to be 10, 12 pounds, man. And I'm talking to this guy, and I go, "Oh, yes, sir. Our goal at the sheriff's office." I'm like, "Oh!" and the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, he does that all the time." and that mastiff had. This is why I wish we would have had body cameras in our days. That dog's like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey," and he's getting lower and lower. So that's my best dog story from the street. But. Oh, body cameras, man. Can you imagine? I can imagine being a cop today, body cameras all the time. Because, you know, when we had in-car, like the first dedicated in-car cameras and the microphones, and that was okay. You could turn it on and at least record audio at any time. But now, oh, man, it's just constant. Yeah. Some of the agencies that run them all the time, they have those. We were talking about that in like Seattle. I don't know where they get the data space.
Yeah. It's not the fact that they shouldn't be on every call. It's the fact that you're being recorded the entire time you're on duty.
Well, and one of the things that I hated, it's great to get evidence on it.
Oh.
But there's always the time as soon as it goes off.
Yeah.
As soon as something happens. When we had the microphone, the wireless microphone that was on your belt. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as you chased somebody and caught them and wound up in a fight, that was the first thing to go flying. And you know it was going to be 6 weeks before you got a new one. So you lose that, and it's like, well, he turned his microphone on or off, you know, right at that time. Like, no, it's hanging on the fence.
No, he kicked me in the face.
Yeah.
It went flying.
It went flying, but...
So did you hear about there's a cop in Florida that
Frio, it's in the top deal.
Sure, yeah. He used his body camera to film himself stealing money from a guy's wallet.
Nice.
And because what he forgot was that when you turn the camera on, it actually comes on 30 seconds before you turned it on.
Oh yeah,
because it's basically on all the time. So what he did, and this guy had a scam he was running. He was a smart dude. He was stealing money out of people's wallets, but he would only steal money.
It's in the door, Ronny, on the top.
He would only steal from drunks that he was arresting.
Oh yeah,
because a drunk doesn't know how much money he's got anyway, right? I mean, you know, because he's drunk, right? And so he would say, you know, he'd come out the next morning and get his stuff when he gets out of jail, and he's like, "Hey, man, you know, I'm $100 short." And they're like, "Yeah, dude, you were
you and your pink elephant, buddy."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, you blew a .24 last night. You have no idea how much money you had. So what he did is he stopped the guy for DWI. Thank you. He had the guy in the back of his car, and he's got the trunk open, and he's bagging up the dude's pocket stuff, his keys, his wallet, his change. And he turns on the camera to film himself bagging up all this guy's belongings. But he forgot the camera backs up 30 seconds and actually filmed him taking the $100 bill out of the guy's wallet and putting it in his trunk and then bagging everything up.
Nice.
Good riddance.
And it was a good business, but it was career limiting.
That's what I'm saying. Good riddance.
Because what happened is, and this is how he got caught. The guy got an attorney, and the attorney asked for camera footage for evidence, and he sat there and he watched it, and then he called the DA and said, you should probably take a look at this.
Oh, yeah. I've gotten that call. Yeah, we've watched a lot of that.
And, dude, so he's no longer a law enforcement officer, as I'm sure you can imagine.
So I have to tell my body camera, or in this case, car camera story. We had in-car cameras and a microphone on the belt. Now, if you remember, Ronnie, those things, some of them were close together in frequency, close enough that if, okay, let me back up. If your camera's off but armed, and you turned on your microphone, your wireless microphone, it turned on your camera and started recording everything. Okay, remember that?
Yes.
Had just a toggle switch. But if your camera system was close to the frequency mine was on, and I drove by you with your microphone on, it would think it was mine, and it would turn on my whole camera system, right? So, and then the racial profiling laws came out, and the sergeants had to watch all your video, because normally they didn't care unless they got a complaint or they thought you were screwing up or whatever. Right. Well, my stepdad that I was talking about, the one that we messed around in his old Army clothes and all, he got a job at a motel, and he was a retired Army officer, and they made him an apartment out of a couple of motel rooms, and he took care of the lawn and did maintenance stuff, and he had him a free pad, right, with his big badass computer, which he was happy as a clam. And every once in a while I would go pick up food and go eat lunch with him, and it was never an issue. Everybody knew what was going on. But my sergeant didn't know. I didn't think about that. It had just never come up in conversation or anything that my stepdad was the maintenance guy at this, motel on I-20. So I called. I was talking to the dispatcher on the phone, and I said, it was about a call, and I said, it's done. And I said, hey, about 15 minutes, clear me for lunch, because I'm going to go over to my dad. She says, okay, yeah, no problem. So they checked me out for lunch. So it wasn't on the radio. That's why I'm telling you that. I drove by another cop, and his microphone was on, so my camera switch is on. So all you see is me pull in to a motel, right?
During your shift.
Yeah, during my uniform, with obviously enough food for two people, right? And I bang on the door. Well, he was inside. He was like back in the bathroom or the other side, the other room. He's like, hey, come on in. Oh, yeah, he was at his computer. And so I just walk in like I know what I'm doing. And my microphone was off, so there's no audio. It's just this camera rolling. I'm in there for, half-hour lunch break. And so my sergeant is watching this, and, it's traffic stop. Me taking food into a cheap motel.
What the hell?
Hey, man, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, and then I explained to him, and he's like, okay, this is cool. So, yeah. Sometimes shit just don't look right. That was it. So.
Well, I did love the camera system, because we ended up having, I don't know how many complaints a year, but after we had the cameras, it actually, I think one of the first years we had them, it was all of them were unfounded but one.
Yeah, something like that.
And they would tell them, okay, go ahead and fill out a report, and before you start writing, we've seen the video footage. So what you're telling us doesn't match up, but you go ahead and write that out in a statement, and we'll take it from there. And they'd be like,
make sure you sign it.
They'd get up and leave, and it was just the end of it.
Yeah, it was. That's a good thing about it. It does huge things. Here's
never hurt me.
We're going to start edging.
If you're a good cop and you're doing your job, you got nothing to worry about. You know? If you're not, you got something to worry about.
Yeah.
We had this talk, and we're probably going to get a little bit more political as we go in here, but when you hear people talking about how brutal and violent and terrible and everything the police are today, compared to just at the beginning of my career, because we came in right after Rodney King, which changed law enforcement, as it should have. It changed a lot of policy. They start training us to jump on officers when they twist off. Like that was in our academy, was to de-escalate things. But when you sit and you have coffee with the old guys and realize what law enforcement was like back then, and they say, cops are just we were super violent. And I'm like, you haven't seen the 60s, man. They
Yeah.
would just drive up and hit you. They didn't care. And when I see all the stats, you have to stop and realize that right now, at this moment in history, we're the most educated, most highly trained, least violent, most capable, most friendly to every minority group, mentally ill, all that, across the board. And 50 years ago, they would shoot you for taking a swing at them. But for some reason, we're tumbling into the abyss of, I don't know. I mean, dude, am I wrong when you compare the old farts? I mean,
No.
Geez. Speaking of old farts.
No, just go on YouTube and watch, Russian cop videos if you want to see what it was like, 30 years ago here.
Yeah, there's a woman on Facebook that was going on about how the U.S. is the most violent and, we just kill people. I'm like, we are still not where, if you go back to the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, actually 30s, skip World War II and go into the 50s and 60s, we're still not even, if you take those stats of violence, what stats exist, or just the war stories, and you compare it to Brazil today, we're still not there.
Really, any other country.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom and dad were in Paris when they got stopped, and they were searched.
Yeah.
And my mom had the audacity to say, this is what it is, but what gives y'all the authority? And they said, or what gives y'all the probable cause? And they got right on her, and they said, we don't need probable cause.
Yeah.
We don't have a constitution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that blows my mind.
we're very spoiled.
Well, I had a guy from a little training class we did, and it was a guy from Israel. And he said, he goes, you guys do it different over here. He said, where I'm from, he said, you're walking your beat middle of the night. You see somebody lurking between a couple apartment buildings, you shoot them.
Yeah.
He said, your sergeant shows up and he goes, why'd you shoot him? He goes, he was a terrorist. Oh, okay.
Well,
End of story.
when I was a SWAT commander, they would send us to these schools, and they're constantly changing how we deal with different things. If you look at active shooter training, like we did an active shooter last year training that I haven't taught in, 6 years I've been at the DA's office, and it's already changed a lot, the tactics and everything. And everything was constantly moving. Crap, where was I going with this? Oh, and I went to a commander school, and I was constantly fighting with someone in my chain of command somewhere about, or a patrol sergeant or whatever, how to do something. We've got this situation where we're going to do this. Now, you guys don't need to do that. You need to do whatever. I'd say, shut up. We're SWAT. And right. Or there would be an argument over how we're going to do it. Narcotics officers, they want to do it this way. And we're going, no, we don't rescue dope, man. We're going to do it this way. I sat down with this guy and I asked him, okay, we had a couple of beers. I took him out. I sat him down. I said, okay, here's the scenario. And everything I asked him, he goes, oh, no, we would just call in a tank and blow the place up. Right. You beat your wife and hole up in a building. Go, I'm going to shoot any cop that comes up. Yeah. Like blow the floor of the apartment building out. They didn't care. They don't care. And anything, if they think it has a bomb in it, they're going to blow it up. Right. If you don't have a gun, they may send a dog in and chew your nads off. So, anyhow. We are running toward the end, guys. I wanted to mention, two things I want to get to. Number one, I was going to make it through yesterday without crying, right? Without any tears, and it was tough. But I get my plaque, and this is all on my Facebook page. Everybody's probably seeing that Laura gave me with the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, and she explained it. And that was amazing. This prick takes me home in my old car, and he goes, hey, man, you need to go 1042, which is where you check out. And we don't do that at the DA's office. Like,
right.
I don't know where my radio is. I've used it 6 times this year, calling in a license plate, and he has me do 42, and they do the full-on, reading your service and all that stuff. And everybody else checks in, congratulations, and you say a little something. I've never heard that done in Midland before. I just hadn't been there. But.
Well, you hadn't been there because I'd seen it done before, and Sherry over in dispatch is the one that did it.
Yeah, she's an angel.
She's a class act.
Yeah. And so I got pretty steamy over that. So this morning I go to the waiting room in chemo, and I I sat down and I thought, oh man, I was going to put a picture of my plaque on Facebook. No kidding. I got home right after that. I fell asleep. 12 hours. I was out.
Yeah.
I was done. It was a long day. And I went in this morning, sat down, waiting for my blood work, and I saw your Facebook post, and that was it, man. I'm like, right there in the waiting room. And then I was showing it because, like, we have this little clique of patients on the same chemo schedule, and I was showing it to them, and everybody's, like, all tearing up and shit. I'm like, oh, wow. The other thing I want to ask, you guys be the authority, is the old Afghan hound story true or not?
I'm not an authority on that.
I'm not either.
The story about the guy with the dead Afghan hounds that happened in the 50s or 60s at the hospital.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
Or 70s, was it?
Yeah, it's late 70s, early 80s, I think.
Okay.
I just heard about this, and I can't.
Well, I asked you, and you hadn't heard of it, and I think you told me about it. Either you or...
No, I told you about it.
Okay.
But I heard it from somebody who used to be a dispatcher.
Well, you're the best storyteller at the table, dude. I'm going to ask you to throw it down.
Well, so the story that I got, and I have no idea whether this is true or not, but supposedly some officer was driving around and I guess found this dead dog. It got hit by a car or something. I don't know I don't remember how all that happened, but they decided to prank another officer, and so they dispatched him to the hospital, to the emergency room, and so he parks his car and he goes inside and he's looking for somebody to fill out a report, somebody got beat up or whatever, and of course he can't find anybody there. While he was in the hospital, they got a leash and tied this dog onto his bumper of his car, and put a note on under his windshield that said something to the effect of, oh, officer, I had to go to the emergency room. Could you please watch my dog for me until I get back? And then they called in some priority one call, and he runs out, jumps in his car, and hauls ass across town, not knowing that he's dragging this dead dog behind him the whole way. And then he gets to the second fake call of the night and finds his note on his car, on his windshield, and a dead dog tied to his bumper.
No names attached to this or anything else.
So then he goes back up to the hospital, and he's trying to find the owner of the dog, which he can't because it doesn't exist. And this went on, I don't know how many hours this went on before they finally told him it was a prank, but I don't know whether it's true or not. That's just a story that I heard.
Okay, but here's the thing.
But it would have been when your dad worked there.
Yeah.
So.
I've asked a few people, and I've gotten, I remember hearing about that. So that's good, and it's too intricate a story, I think.
I don't know.
And that's totally some shit cops would do to each other.
But it's possible that it didn't happen here. Maybe it happened somewhere else.
Yeah, it could have happened
and then the
somewhere
story
else.
got, messed. I don't know.
The one that still makes me laugh to this day was the report y'all wrote Bags.
Oh, the chicken story? Yeah.
And the thing about, have you ever heard the story?
I don't guess I have.
I have to describe Bags. Bags was a TDC guard.
State prison, like building captain, bruiser. Yeah.
Yeah, very hardcore.
Southern. I forget where he's from. One of my best friend's father, James Baggs' father. So you picture a movie prison.
I met him before.
Yeah. You picture a movie prison captain like the guy in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I remember.
He was the real deal, and he was very serious and everything else. And y'all went hunting with him and everything else. I never saw the man crack a smile. Never.
Yeah.
It took a few jacks to loosen that guy. I mean, he was always nice to us as kids, but when we got to work, I was extra guarded because I was his son's friend. Like, I didn't want to piss him off or anything. He was a pretty stoic dude.
Yeah. So now you need to tell the story about the chicken.
We all get off shift at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's Rick Rowland, who retired. He was a sergeant, investigator sergeant when he retired. Rick and I are super tight. It was Donald Graham, who's now a captain at the sheriff's office, and a bunch of us. We all go out, and one of the, I think it was Donald was driving a truck, and there was a chicken sitting on the truck, right? And this chicken's just sitting there, and it has a ribbon tied around its leg, and he's just sitting there. There's a lot weird about this. Like, how did this chicken get here? downtown Midland. This is close to downtown Midland, and so what's up? So now the question is, Don's like, I want to go home. What do we do with this chicken? So we decide to catch it. I don't know why, but we did. So you picture the Keystone Cops, 11 o'clock at night, in uniform, chasing this damn chicken all over the place.
They're harder to catch than they look.
They are.
I watched that Rocky movie. I saw how
mine's always in a bucket.
So we caught the chicken, and now what do we do? Right? So we decided to go in the lobby. I guess we were going to see if there was some writing on the ribbon or if it had a band. Hell, we didn't know, or call somebody, and we walked in, and Sandra, her name is Perales, it's Kaiser now. She worked for a bail bonds company. And she comes up, and apparently they raised chickens, or somebody she knew did, and she came up, oh, that's a really pretty, whatever kind of chicken it was. Oh, that's neat. And she said, oh, the toenail's broken. And we're like, well, we've been chasing this damn thing an hour. No wonder. So she talked about it, and she said, you know what, I'll take it home, give it to my neighbors, or put it, whatever. So we did. And the next morning, I had this really cool idea, and I wrote a report about the chicken that was criminal trespassing on a car and became verbally abusive in a pursuit. Started, was captured.
Resisting arrest.
Yeah. And at one point, she did say, Sandra did say, don't hold him like that, you'll choke him. So I put in there that someone was accused of choking the chicken, however that was, yeah. And the chicken was released to a bail bondsman and all that kind of stuff. I wrote this pretty cool report, and Bags got it.
Yes.
And I didn't expect him to get it. Like, I just wrote it, I remember who I gave it to. But it was on the bulletin board the next day and was sent to the sheriff and everyone else. And I have a copy of it. You know what? We need to do nothing but a cop prank episode, and we will. I'll read that report. It's in there somewhere. I couldn't find it. It'd take me 20 minutes to dig it up. Yeah. But yeah, the famous chicken report. I forgot about that. Yeah. Cool. We'll do that. I can think of a lot of cool cop pranks, but we're up against an hour and need to quit. But Ronny, thanks for all the retirement grace, man. That was great. And
happy retirement.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
First day isn't too bad.
Now you can do a podcast all day, every day.
Yeah, dude. I'll be like Dale Gribble. We did the 24-hour Pirate Station
reality show.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should mention Pirate Station because I know a guy that's got one.
I do too, man. He's no longer attached to any sort of government agency, so it's no big deal. I have months, at least. It'll be the end of the year before I'm seriously looking for anything to do. I have piled up so many projects and things, and assuming the health holds out, at least if it keeps straight and level, I'll be good to go at least the first of the year, and I've lined up some gigs and stuff after that. So, but yeah, just today, mowed the yard, decided it's too hot. The hell with it. Came in and I thought, hey, I'm retired. I can mow the yard in the morning when it's nice and cool because I don't have to be anywhere. So, cool, gentlemen. We'll do it again. Ronny, Clif, thanks again.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you, brother.
Frank episode.